My name is Jill Harmon. I was 27 years old when a man I met on Tinder drove me to a house at the edge of town, locked the door behind us, and I found a knife hidden under his bedroom pillow. I want to tell you exactly how I missed every warning sign on the way there, because looking back, they were all there, every single one. I just told myself a story that explained them away. If you have ever talked yourself out of a bad feeling about someone you just started dating, keep listening. Mark and I had been single for about 3 weeks when my friend Tina suggested I try Tinder. My previous relationship had lasted 3 years. His name was Tom, and he was genuinely a good person. The relationship had just run its course. We ended things on decent terms and stayed in casual contact the way adults sometimes do when a long relationship ends without a clear villain. Tina meant well. She always does, even when she oversteps. She called me one morning to tell me she had already let Tom know I was back on the app. She thought it would help him understand I had moved on. I thanked her through my teeth and called Tom to apologize. He handled it graciously the way he handled most things. He said he understood, wished me well, and told me not to hesitate to reach out if I needed anything. I felt bad, but I also felt the particular relief of a clean break staying clean. I went back to Tinder and started swiping. A few days later, I matched with a guy named Mark. His photos were normal. He was not striking, but he had an easy smile. His bio said he worked at a department store a few miles from my apartment. We started talking and the conversation moved quickly from surface level to something that felt more genuine. Similar taste in food, similar opinions about the kinds of small things that reveal a lot about a person. We agreed to meet for lunch. He was more attractive in person than in photos, taller than I expected. His manner was confident in a way that read as charming on a first date, that particular ease that some people have around new situations. He was flirtatious, more than I would usually tolerate in a first meeting, but there was something about the energy of the conversation that made it feel fun rather than uncomfortable. I had not had a first date energy like that in a long time. We agreed to see each other again. Over the following weeks, we talked regularly, phone calls and texts most days. He was funny and attentive and seemed genuinely interested in what I was saying, but there was a thread running through the conversations that I noticed and chose not to pull on. He talked about betrayal often, not dramatically, just a comment here and there folded into the normal back and forth. Something like love has become a joke, you can hardly trust anyone anymore, or heartbreak is the worst thing you can do to a person. He never elaborated and I never asked. I assumed he had come out of something painful and was still working through it. I kept a respectful distance from the subject the way you do with someone new. In hindsight, I understand those comments differently. One evening, he called and suggested dinner. He said he would pick me up. He arrived at my building at 7, and I got into his car and immediately noticed the smell of alcohol. Not strong, not alarming on its own, but present. He told me he had been out for a few drinks with work friends earlier. He was driving carefully and his behavior was normal, so I let it go. People drive after a couple of drinks. It was not ideal, but it did not feel like a crisis. We got to the restaurant around 9. It was a decent place, the kind of restaurant with low lighting and a wine list and tables that fill up on weekend evenings. We ordered food and the conversation settled into an easy rhythm. Mark was in a good mood, relaxed and funny, more physical in his attention than he had been before, leaning in closer, finding reasons to touch my arm when he laughed. Then he ordered whiskey, then a second, then a third and a fourth, all within about 30 minutes of sitting down. I watched his glass refill and felt the first real discomfort of the evening. Not because I have anything against drinking, but because he had already been drinking before he picked me up, and now he was sitting across from me ordering round after round while his car sat in the parking lot outside. I said something. I told him he was driving and he should probably slow down. He looked at me. It was a specific look. His eyes went level and flat in a way that did not match the rest of the evening. Then the expression passed and he smiled. He said he really liked me. He said he wanted to take me back to his place after dinner. I had wanted that too at some point over the past few weeks. I liked him. But something about the way he said it in that moment, after that particular look, after 4 drinks on top of whatever he had consumed earlier in the day, made me hesitate. I asked how far his place was. He said not far. He said, "Come on, let's go." I could not find the right words to say no. That is the honest answer, and I have thought about it many times since. I could not find the words quickly enough, and then we were already moving toward the door. The dusty house. He drove faster than he should have. I asked him to slow down twice. The first time he laughed. The second time he said nothing. His eyes stayed on the road and his hands stayed on the wheel, and the speedometer climbed. We left the town center and got onto a road I did not recognize. The streetlights thinned out and then disappeared entirely. We were on a 2-lane road through a stretch of open land, no houses visible, no other headlights in either direction. I said I did not know he lived outside of town. He said almost there. The house appeared at the end of a dirt track after about 10 minutes. I had been telling myself something for the last 5 minutes, and I stopped telling myself that thing when I saw it. The house was old, a wooden structure that had not been maintained in a long time. No exterior lights, no neighbors visible in any direction, no other cars on the track. The yard around it was overgrown, and in the ambient light from the car's headlights, I could see the general state of neglect in the way the porch sagged and the paint had peeled back from the siding in long strips. Mark got out of the car. He said, "Welcome to the lion's den." Then he laughed. A short, specific laugh that I had not heard from him before. Not warm, not connected to humor in any way I could identify. I got out of the car because I did not know what else to do. Inside, the lights he switched on revealed a living room with a layer of dust on every surface. The couch, the coffee table, the shelves along the wall. The kind of dust that takes weeks or months to settle, not the kind from a busy week. A chair in the corner that appeared not to have been moved in a very long time. The smell was closed and stale, the smell of air that had not been circulated recently. This did not look like the home of someone who lived here day to day. Mark took me upstairs. The bedroom at the top of the stairs had the same quality of abandonment. The bed was made, but the bedding had a slightly musty smell. A bedside table with nothing on it. A bathroom through a door at the far end of the room. He told me to sit on the bed and went downstairs to the kitchen. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the room. I was thinking about my phone. I was thinking about Tom, specifically about what I would say if I called him. I was thinking about how this felt different from any discomfort I had experienced on a bad date before. This felt specific in a way I could not fully name. My hand moved toward the pillow at the head of the bed. I am not entirely sure why. Something about the shape of it, the way it was sitting slightly raised at one corner. I lifted the pillow. There was a knife underneath it. A kitchen knife with a blade about 8 inches long, laying flat on the sheet with the handle toward the side of the bed, closer to where I was sitting. I stood up. I moved to the bedroom doorway and looked down the hall toward the stairs. I could hear him in the kitchen. Movement, the sound of liquid being poured, the particular clink of a glass being set on a counter. I stood at the top of the stairs and looked down without going further. Through the gap in the kitchen doorway, I could see the edge of the counter and Mark's profile. He was at the counter with his back to me. His hands were in front of him. He was holding a glass of wine in one hand and something else in the other hand that I could not clearly see. His posture was bent slightly forward in the way of someone focused on a task that requires attention. I stepped back from the stairway and went back into the bedroom. I closed the bedroom door as quietly as I could and sat on the edge of the bed and held my phone. The knife was still under the pillow. I had not touched it. I thought about the front door. He had locked it with a key when we came in. I had noticed it, but told myself at the time it was normal to lock your door behind you. Now it felt less normal. I thought about the road outside, the empty, dark road with no street lights and no visible houses. I thought about how fast he had driven. I thought about the look on his face when I asked him to slow down. I opened my contacts and found Tom's name. I had not called him since the conversation after Tina's interference. My hands were not steady as I pressed the name. He picked up on the second ring. I could hear the surprise in his voice when he said my name. Before he could say anything more, I spoke in as low and controlled a voice as I could manage. I told him I needed help. I told him I thought I was in danger. I told him I needed him to come to my location right now. Tom's voice changed immediately. No hesitation, no questions. He asked me to share my live location. I did. He said he was coming as fast as he could and told me to stay on the line. I heard Mark's footsteps on the stairs. I ended the call and dropped the phone into my jacket pocket. The bedroom door opened. Mark came in carrying 2 wine glasses. His expression was light and unhurried, the social mask back in place after whatever I had seen in the car. He smiled at me. He held out one of the glasses. He said, "Here's your drink, Jill. Enjoy." The bathroom door. I took the glass. I did not drink from it. I looked at the wine and then looked at him, and I said I needed to use the bathroom first. I asked if he minded. He said, "Of course not. Do not make me wait too long." He smiled in a way that did not reach his eyes. I went into the bathroom and turned the lock. I stood at the sink with my hands gripping the edge of the basin and looked at myself in the mirror for a moment. Then I pulled out my phone and checked the location sharing. It was active. Tom could see where I was. I turned the tap on, not loud, just enough to provide cover for the sound of me moving. I did not want him hearing a silence from behind this door that made him think I had stopped moving. The bathroom had a window above the toilet, a narrow rectangular window about 4 feet off the floor. I stepped up onto the toilet tank and looked at the latch. It was the simple single-turn type. I opened it and pushed the frame, and it swung outward on stiff hinges. A knock on the door. Mark's voice came through the wood. He said my name. He said he thought I might have taken something of his. My hand had moved the knife from under the pillow to my jacket pocket without me making a fully conscious decision about it. I realize that now. His voice through the door changed. He said, "Come out, doll." He said he had planned a romantic night and I should not make him force anything. I looked at the window. The drop on the other side was about 8 feet to the ground below. I could see the dirt of the yard in the darkness. The knocking became something else. Heavy rhythmic blows against the door. Not the sound of a fist, something harder. I looked at the door and saw that the upper half was pane glass set in a wood frame. I could see his silhouette through the frosted surface close to the glass, his face pressed near it. I heard a crack. He was hitting the glass with his head. The frosted surface was fracturing from the impact. I could see the spider pattern of the cracks spreading from the point of contact, and I could see the dark smear on the glass that was not part of the frost. My phone vibrated in my pocket. "Tom," I answered it in silence. He said, "I am outside. Where are you?" I did not say anything. I was already on top of the toilet seat with my hands on the window frame. I pushed myself through the opening head first and got my shoulders and chest through, and then my hips the edge of the frame catching hard against my leg, and then I was falling and I hit the ground with my right ankle, taking the impact. The pain was immediate and significant. I did not stop moving. I could see headlights on the road beyond the edge of the property. I ran toward them in the dark on a foot that was sending sharp feedback up my leg with every step, and I hit the passenger door of Tom's car and pulled it open and got inside and screamed at him to drive. He drove. I sat in that passenger seat with my ankle throbbing and my hands in my lap and watched the dark road unreeling behind us through the rear window until the lights of town appeared ahead. The text on his phone. Tom stayed with me that night. He sat with me while I iced my ankle, and he sat with me while I tried to sleep, and he was there in the morning when I woke up. In the days after that night, things between us fell back into something that felt like what we had before. familiar and comfortable. I was grateful for him in a way I had not been for a long time. I told myself that sometimes a crisis clarifies things. About a week after the night at the house, I was in the bathroom when Tom's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I came out to check on it, not because I was suspicious, just reflexively the way you check a buzzing phone nearby. There was a text visible on the lock screen from an unknown number. It said, "Got the payment, thanks." I picked up the phone. The message thread was visible. The most recent message was a reply to something Tom had sent the night before. Tom's outgoing message read, "Got her back, thanks for all the help, sending the money now." I put the phone down on the counter very carefully. I stood in the kitchen and held very still and thought about the sequence of events over the past several weeks. Tina calling to tell me she had let Tom know I was on Tinder. Tom's gracious reaction on the phone. Mark appearing in my matches. The house that looked like no one lived in it. The knife under the pillow. My phone call to Tom. Tom arriving within minutes on a road I had never been to before in the dark, without any wrong turns. I thought about Tom's voice when he picked up the phone. The lack of surprise, no questions, just immediate action. The way someone responds when a situation unfolds the way they expected it to, rather than the way a person responds to a genuine emergency call at night. I looked at the bathroom door across the apartment. Tom was in the shower. I could hear the water running. I stood in the kitchen holding his phone for a long time. I put it back on the counter exactly as I found it. I picked up my own phone and my jacket and my keys. I left the apartment and closed the door quietly behind me. I have not spoken to Tom since that morning. I have not spoken to Tina either. I filed a police report about Mark in the house on the outskirts of town. The officers who looked into it found the property listed under a name that did not match Mark's. They found evidence of prior occupation consistent with the house having been used for something other than regular habitation. They brought in Mark for questioning. He was released. The case did not move forward in any meaningful way. I do not know the full shape of what was planned for that night. I do not know how long Tom had been building it, or why, or what he thought was going to happen. I do not know if the knife under the pillow was supposed to be used on me, or placed there for some other purpose entirely. What I know is that I trusted the wrong person for 3 years, and then trusted the person who used that trust to engineer something I still do not fully understand. I check the back seat of my car every time I get in. I check that my front door is locked before I sleep, and I have not been on a dating app since. The man who licked his lips. The second story I want to tell belongs to a friend of mine named Noah. He is 24 years old, and he agreed to let me share this because he wants people to understand a specific pattern, the way someone can use personal information you share and trust as a weapon against you. Noah had been out publicly for about a year when this happened. He was using Tinder and matched with a guy whose profile name was Leo. They started talking, and the conversation was easy and warm. Leo said he worked as a car mechanic. He talked about his own experience coming out about how his mother had reacted badly and cut off contact. Noah connected with that part of the conversation. He was supportive and honest, and he shared some of his own experience in return. They talked for 2 weeks before making any plans to meet. One night, Noah was walking home from a friend's house. He was on a quiet residential street, late, moving quickly. About a block from his door, he felt the particular awareness of being watched that is difficult to articulate, but almost impossible to misread once you have felt it. He turned around. A man was standing in the middle of the road several yards behind him, wearing a dark hoodie with the hood up, face mostly obscured. The one visible feature was his mouth. He was running his tongue along his lower lip in a slow, repetitive motion, just standing there in the middle of the road doing that. Noah turned and walked fast the rest of the way home. The next morning, he found a letter in his mailbox. It said, "Next time I see you, you will not be going home alive." Noah spent the day shaken and distracted at work. That evening, he got a call from Leo asking where he was. Noah told him about the letter, said he was heading to the police station. Leo was sympathetic and shocked and said all the right things. Then he told Noah he had actually been planning to invite him for dinner tonight. He said they could go to the police together afterward if Noah wanted. Noah said yes. He took a cab to Leo's address, and Leo was waiting at the door smiling. He was good-looking in person, relaxed and easy, exactly the person Noah had been talking to for 2 weeks. They sat down on the couch and Leo poured wine, and they talked about their days. Leo asked what the man who had been following him looked like. Noah said he had not been able to see his face, but there was something specific about the way the man moved his mouth. He said he would never forget it, that slow, repetitive licking of the lips. He was about to describe it when Leo smiled, and did it. The same motion, the same pace, looking directly at Noah with that expression. Noah stood up. His legs felt wrong, not fully responsive. The room was tilting in a way that was not right. He looked at the wine glass on the table and understood what had happened and what was already happening to him. He got to the door before his legs gave out completely, and he went down on the floor. He woke up on the floor with his hands tied behind him. Leo was crouching in front of him. I am not going to describe in detail what Leo said or what he intended. What matters for this story is what happened next. Noah had been listening to Leo talk and had quietly been working his wrists against the rope. When Leo moved toward him, Noah got one hand free. What happened in the following 60 seconds was fast and violent, and ended with Leo on the floor and Noah at the front door. Leo was arrested that night. He was charged with attempted murder, unlawful detention, and assault. During the investigation, a second victim came forward, a young man who had been through a similar encounter with Leo the previous year and had not come forward at the time out of fear. Leo is currently serving a prison sentence. The detail that Noah returned to most when he talked to me about it was the moment Leo asked him to describe what the man in the hoodie had looked like. Sitting there on that couch, filling in the picture of his own stalking from the perspective of the victim. It was not random cruelty, it was information gathering. Leo had been in that hoodie on that street, and he needed to know how much Noah had seen. He used the trust of 2 weeks of intimate conversation to get Noah to describe him accurately while sitting 3 feet away. I like watching you sleep. The last story I want to tell you is the one that disturbs me most when I look back at it, not because of what happened at the climax, but because of how long it took the person at the center of it to understand what was happening around him. His name is Bob. He is 23. He moved to Seattle for a job opportunity and matched with a girl named Jenny on Tinder within his first month in the city. She said she was 20, working retail, saving for college. They texted constantly. When they finally met in person at a coffee shop, he sat by the big front window and waited. And in the minutes before she arrived, he had the feeling of being watched from the street. He looked outside and saw someone step quickly behind a streetlight. He wrote it off. Jenny arrived and was funny and bright, and he had a good time. He thought nothing more of the feeling. They started spending a lot of time together. Jenny would come over after work and stay late. Things were easy at first, but small things started accumulating. She got angry at a movie for no clear reason and made him leave early. She was furious when a female colleague spoke to him at a coffee shop for 90 seconds. She began making comments that suggested she was tracking his movements more closely than he had told her about. Then one night, Bob came home drunk from a work event. He went to bed alone. He woke up in the dark with the feeling that something was wrong in the apartment. He opened his eyes. Jenny was standing in the doorway of his bedroom, not moving, not speaking. Standing with the door half open in the dark, watching him in bed with wide, unblinking eyes. He gasped. She laughed. She came in and cuddled up next to him, and he fell back asleep, telling himself it was strange but not dangerous. In the morning, she was gone. When he called her, she told him with complete certainty that she had been at her mother's all night, that he must have dreamt it. He spent most of the day convincing himself she was right. He had been very drunk. People dream vividly after heavy drinking. It was possible. The next incident happened on a Sunday afternoon at the same coffee shop where they had met. A colleague of his named Pamela came in and joined them briefly. She was at the table for less than 5 minutes before leaving. That evening in his apartment, Jenny turned on him about Pamela. Not just jealousy, not just a bad mood. She accused Bob of having arranged the encounter. She said she had been watching him through the coffee shop window before she came in and had seen him on his phone. Bob said something about being watched and she escalated immediately. She picked up a hot pan from the stove and hit him in the head with it. He went down. When he came back to consciousness, he was in his bedroom closet with his hands and feet tied and tape over his mouth. He could hear Jenny in the other room. Then he heard a second voice, Pamela. Jenny had contacted Pamela. She had told her Bob needed help. She had gotten Pamela to come to the apartment. Bob could hear the conversation through the closet door. It was entirely normal on Jenny's side. Friendly, concerned. She was telling Pamela that Bob talked about her a lot, that they must be really close. And Bob, through the gap in the closet door, could see that Jenny was holding a kitchen knife behind her back. He threw himself against the inside of the closet door repeatedly until it made enough noise that Pamela heard it. When Pamela opened the closet and saw Jenny raise the knife, Bob got between them. He took the blade in his forearm, 6 stitches and 3 on his forehead from the pan. Jenny was taken into custody and subsequently placed in a psychiatric facility. The last thing the police told Bob was that Jenny was largely unresponsive in the facility. She talked to herself. She called the staff by his name sometimes. The staff said she told them, "Do not worry, I will see him again. I like watching him sleep." Bob told me he does not know if that is something she actually said or something the officer added for effect. He said he prefers not to know. He moved out of that apartment 2 weeks after the incident. He has a new address that he has not given to anyone he met online. He still has the scar on his forearm, what they all saw coming. I want to close by being direct about the thing these 3 stories have in common. In every single case, the dangerous person displayed a clear pattern before anything violent happened. Mark talked obsessively about betrayal and people who break trust. He drank heavily on a second date in front of someone he barely knew and stared at her with flat eyes when she asked him to slow down. Leo asked pointed questions about the appearance of a man he already knew was himself. Jenny stood in a doorway, watching someone sleep, and then tried to gaslight him into believing it did not happen. None of these things were hidden. They were visible. They happened in real time in front of the people they were directed at. And every one of those people found a way to rationalize each individual incident as something explainable or something they were overreacting to. I did the same thing. I sat across from Mark and watched him drink his 4th whiskey and told myself he was just having a good time. I sat in that car and felt the speed and the dark road closing in around us and told myself I was overthinking things. There is a voice that comes in when you are uncomfortable with someone and want to stay comfortable with the situation. It finds reasons. It produces explanations. It tells you that you are being dramatic or unfair or too sensitive. That voice is sometimes right, but it can also be the thing that keeps you sitting in a car, headed somewhere you should not go. The knife under the pillow was not the first sign. It was the last one. Everything before it was also a sign. I just did not let myself read them that way until there was no other way to read them. Trust what you feel before you get in the car. Trust it before you walk into the house. Trust it before you take the drink that someone else poured for you in a room you cannot leave on your own. The signs are almost always there before the worst moment arrives. The question is whether you will let yourself see them in time.